Now that we've been through the basics of simplifying and adding like terms in episode 1, let's have a look at expanding the product so that we can simplify. And when we expand the product, it means that we're going to use the distributive property. As you can see here, I've got a term being multiplied by a bracket which contains two terms, in other words, a binomial. So I need to multiply that term outside the bracket by the first term, and I need to multiply it by the second term. And then I will have eliminated the brackets. This negative 5x isn't being multiplied by anything, so it's going to stay as it is for the moment. So if I take 8x times 2y, I'm going to get 16xy. 8x times 4, and they're both positive, so I know that my answer is going to be positive. So 8x times 4 is 32x, and then I still have that minus 5x. So now, if I look at my three terms, all the terms contain an x, but this one hasn't just got x, it's got xy. So this is not a like term, but these two are like terms because they simply contain x. So that term is going to stay exactly as it is. And then I'm going to say 32 minus 5, because I've got 32x minus 5x, and that's going to give me positive 27x. And that would be my final answer. I've expanded, in other words, I've got rid of the brackets, and then I've added any like terms that I have. So looking at the next one, I've got two situations where something is being multiplied by a bracket, so I need to eliminate both of those brackets in the same way that I did that one. So first of all, 4x times 3x is going to give me 12x squared. 4x times 8 is going to give me 32x. Now be careful, this term outside the bracket is a negative, so make sure of your signs. Negative times positive is negative. 2x times 6x is 12x squared, and negative times negative is positive. 2x times 4 is 8x. So looking again now at my four terms that I've created, remember from the first episode, like terms are the same variable to the same power. So even though this has an x variable and that also does, they are not like terms because that's x squared, and this is x to the power of 1. So I've got two x squared terms and I've got two x terms. So tidying up now, I'm going to say 12x squared minus 12x squared is going to give me 0, so I don't write anything down. It's almost as if they cancel each other out. And then I've got 32x plus 8x is going to give me 40x. So I've ended up here with a very simplified situation where I'm only left with one term. Okay, let's have a look at this one. It looks very similar to that because I've got two lots of brackets with something being multiplied in. Let's see what happens in this situation. So m times 4m, m times negative 2n, and then remember we always write letters in alphabetical order just for easier brain processing. 3n times 5m, so I've got plus 15, and I'm going to write it as mn, and then that term times that is going to give me negative 18n squared. So looking for terms now, I have an m squared and I have an n squared. Those are two different terms. And then I have two terms that contain mn, so those are going to be like terms. So I've only got two like terms to add up. The other two are just going to stay as they are. So 4m squared minus 2mn plus 15mn is going to give me plus 13mn. And my n squared term is going to stay as it is. And there we have the final answer. Right, we can also end up with three terms in the bracket. We can end up with any number of terms in the bracket. But however many terms are in the bracket, all of those terms have to be multiplied by the term outside the bracket, because the distributive law says distribute the one outside into the bracket to each and every one of them. And how are we distributing it? We're distributing it through multiplication because the bracket means multiplication. So I'm going to be doing the same thing there, distribute across all of the terms. Right, let's start off. That times that is going to give me 28p squared. Be careful of your sign, negative 24pq. 20 plus 20 PR minus 12 PQ. Negative times negative is positive 6 PR, and negative times positive is negative 3 PS. Right, so this looks a little confusing because there are just so many letters and so many combinations. So I only have that p squared value, so that's not going to be added to anything else. Here is a PQ term, and I have another PQ term. So those two need to be processed. I have a PR term and another PR term, and I don't have another PS term. So I'm simply going to move through those. The 28p squared is not being added or subtracted to anything. And now let's work with these two. Negative 24 minus 12 is going to give me negative 36 PQ. Looking at the PR terms, 26 plus 6 is going to give me positive 26 PR, and that term is going to remain as it is. So all sorts of things can happen in these types of examples. And the most important thing I want to bring to your attention today is the distributive law. As soon as there's a bracket, no matter how many terms are in the bracket, each term needs to be multiplied by the one outside. I hope this has been helpful, and I ask you please to click on that subscribe button.